One of my greatest mentors famously said that you can drive cross country and take the most direct route, or you can take the roundabout route. If you're starting your fitness journey, this is the most direct route to get you to where you want to go. And if I was starting over today from scratch, these are the 3 things I would do to get to where I want to go in the shortest possible time. Step number 1, learn the foundational movement patterns: your squat, single leg, hip hinge, push and pull movement. So 5 movements. And of course, there are a lot of other things from there, but this is setting the stage for strength training for you to get stronger, to build motor control, and then eventually build lean tissue, build strength, and all of the great things that come with that. So I'm gonna take you through each of these movements and give you some simple cues. I want you to really focus on getting these done correctly, because again, it sets the stage for everything to come. If we can nail this down, you're gonna have better results long-term, and your body is going to feel better. You have less risk of having any nagging aches and pains pop up if you do these correctly from the outset. All right. Number 1 is our squat pattern or single leg. So I'm gonna show you both of them. So we're gonna start with a light kettlebell or dumbbell, could be either one. And what I want you guys to do is get into a shoulder width stance, pick this kettlebell up in the goblet position, and start by feeling your heels, okay? Pushing your hips back and just starting with whatever range of motion you feel comfortable with. If it's even going to here, I'm perfectly fine with that. I've got the box here as an additional tactile cue. Some people start squatting and they start squatting with their knees. Use a box, if that's the case for you, to have some tactile cue or something I know I can reach for with my hips. So I want you to get your hips back. I want you to have pressure in your heels, and that is gonna be a great place to start with your squat. Pressure in the heels, hips go back, and as you can see, I'm getting depth, but the depth is relative to you, what you're comfortable with. So again, take your light dumbbell or kettlebell, feel pressure in the heels. You should be able to move your toes, hips back and down, and stand up, slow and control. Everything I'm gonna show you guys today is slow and controlled. So that is number 1, our squat pattern. Okay, adding on to our first movement, our single leg. You can use any type of pad. I just want you to use something for this so you have something to reach for. What I want is 90-90 position. That's it. This is so simple, guys. Should be no problem doing this. But what I will say is that if you're lacking in balance or just overall, maybe you're not accustomed to doing any strength training, just starting off in a 90-90 position and being able to hold this for about 10 seconds, isometric hold is a good place to start. And then over time, we can add range of motion. You could pretend like you're holding weights, and then we can work on touching the pad, okay? And we wanna work both legs. And for everything we're talking about today, guys, 6 to 8 reps per set. Keep it simple, 2 to 3 sets. It's not gonna seem like much, and it shouldn't. I don't want you to get sore from this. I want us to work on quality of movement. That's it. This shouldn't be a sore or hard workout. Okay, so again, 90-90. And over time, we can touch the pad. Over time, we can get rid of the pad. Okay? And that is our split squat, so our single leg pattern. Our next movement is our hip hinge. This is a pattern of low-hanging fruit for a lot of people. A lot of people are not using the musculature on the backside of their body, their glutes, their hamstrings. And learning how to articulate the hips and get good, what's called lumbo-pelvic rhythm, is going to be important for you to execute these movements correctly and not hurt your lower back. So when we do this, step 1 is just starting with about a hip width stance. And I want you to just take your hands, put them on your thighs. And an analogy I used to use when I coach people in person was pretend like you're holding 2 grocery bags and you're trying to close the car door with your butt, okay? If that works for you, great. If it doesn't, you can try getting up to a wall and trying to touch it with your butt. But what I want for the purposes of just kind of feeling what it feels like to turn this musculature on and get into a good hip hinge pattern is putting the hands on the thighs and just guiding them down. And the whole time, my lower back is arched. We're not rounding over, pushing the butt back. Very simple, right? And over time, we can add some load. And actually, for many of you, adding the load first, a light dumbbell or kettlebell, might help you to learn this pattern. It might be easier to actually introduce some load where you get some feedback. So grab yourself a light kettlebell or dumbbell and just kind of feed it between, almost like you're trying to reach for your heels. And that's it. And over time, we can add range of motion. But for right now, we just want to learn this. Like everything we're doing today, we're just learning. We're not training, we're learning. By virtue of you doing movements maybe you haven't done before and doing them correctly, you're probably going to get some soreness from these. Even if we do, like I said, 6 to 8 reps per set, 2 to 3 sets, you'll probably still get some soreness, especially for those of you who've been doing this wrong. Maybe you're doing it wrong for years. This is the first time you're doing it right. So again, just to recap, hands on the thighs, or you're holding 2 grocery bags, just envision it in your minds, and we're getting our butt back. Keeping our spine neutral, and your head should almost travel just with your body. So instead of looking up, we want to just be neutral. We're looking straight forward, and our head naturally travels with our body. So as we go through range of motion, our head is going to be oriented more towards the floor, and as we come up, we'll be looking straight forward. And then with weight, and you should feel a good stretch in the back of your legs, so your hamstrings. This is cool. I feel like I'm teaching people again, which for the first time is always cool to see people get this stuff. So really work hard on getting this movement. Additional notes, if you don't know the difference between keeping an arch in your lower back as opposed to this, I would encourage you to try the cat camel pose so you can get some awareness of what that feels like. Okay, and that's a good drill just to try out, just so you can neurologically create some patterns, some framework for yourself to understand what these positions feel like. And then when we go to transfer that to the actual movement, we do something like a deadlift or a Romanian deadlift, this stuff will make more sense and you'll feel the right musculature working. You won't feel your lower back hurting. You'll feel your hamstrings doing, the brunt of the work, that is. And of course, when we can do that, we get a lot more from our training. We get better results strength-wise as well as gaining lean tissue. Okay, our next movement is our press pattern. Now, this should be the easiest thus far, okay? It should be easier than what we've done with our single leg, our squat, our hip hinge. I want you to get into a split stance position, not a 90-90 like our split squat, but it's just a split stance. And the left leg is gonna be forward. We're gonna work the right arm, dumbbell in the neutral position. So that will be palms facing in, and we're just gonna press in a straight line. When you do this, what I want you to take is your opposite hand, putting on your belly as an indicator or a signal for you to know, I gotta keep my abs tight as if someone's gonna punch me in the stomach. This is just gonna create a solid platform to press from. We don't wanna be kind of loose, we wanna be engaged and creating tension. Okay, so we'll switch sides. Right leg forward, now we're working the left arm, again, neutral position, palms in, abs are turned on, and we're pressing overhead. Same deal, 2 to 3 sets, 6 to 8 reps per side, light dumbbell to start, and you're good to go. All right, our last movement for our foundational movement patterns is our upper pull. So we're gonna perform a 1-arm supported dumbbell row. You can use the same dumbbell that you use for press, but what we want is we wanna get into a supported position. So if you have a bench like this, or really anything that you're gonna put your arm on, I want you to orient the dumbbell basically right between your legs and then have a support on the bench. When we do this, we want, like we talked about with our hip hinge, a neutral spine. So we don't want to be rounded over. We want to be in a neutral position. Essentially, we're looking kind of forward. And then from here, we're going to pick the dumbbell up and we're going to row. And when we row, I want you to think about it's a straight line row. Stopping at this end position is going to be your tricep. This muscle here is going to be close to this muscle, which is called the latissimus. So very close here. You should feel that muscle working. And when we lower, you're gonna feel a little bit of a stretch in that same muscle that I just mentioned, the lats. In about 6 to 8 reps per side, 2 to 3 reps. So just to recap, get in a supported position, neutral spine, about shoulder width with your feet, pulling in a straight line. Switch sides, same deal. You might notice one side is stronger than the other. That's pretty common amongst most people, especially if you're someone that's newer to training. But this should be an easier movement to learn. And this in conjunction with your press should be the 2 easier movements to learn in this series. Step number 2, if I was starting over, Zone 2 cardio. Zone 2, simple way of just saying, doing conversational cardio on something like an air runner, treadmill, air bike, ski erg, elliptical, whatever your gym has. If you have a full assortment of cardio equipment, use all of it. Do 10 minutes at each piece, choose 3 or 4 of them, and you'll be good to go. Now, the thing with zone 2 is that we're keeping the heart rate in the 60 to 70% range. Now, do you need to track it? You could. You don't have to though. You just need to do it so it's relatively easy. A lot of times people say, well, it's easy. Could it be doing anything? The short answer is unequivocal, yes, it is doing a lot specifically for the health of your heart, for your ability to lower things like your resting heart rate, which improves your ability to recover between sessions, during the session, as well as a whole host of other things like controlling inflammation, adding new mitochondria. A lot of science, which you don't need to necessarily know, but what you do need to know is gonna make your heart and body a heck of a lot healthier. So what I want you to do is about 2 to 3 sessions per week of 20 to 30 minutes, and you can choose any of those pieces that I just mentioned, doing about 10 minutes per piece at a conversational pace. That might be walking. It might be super, super slow for you to do that. That is perfectly fine. As you build your fitness over time, you'll notice that your pace will increase and it'll take a little bit more to get your heart rate into that zone 2, which is part of adaptation, part of our ability to get better with training. So start with the lowest effective dose, which is 2 to 3 sessions a week, 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And for some of you, it might even be walking. You might be able to go for a walk and get your heart rate into zone 2. But again, as your fitness improves, that will probably not be the case. You'll probably need to use something that's a little bit more challenging. All right, guys, step 3, steps. This is one of the easiest ways to improve your health, to improve your fitness, to really do everything, which there's not many things that we know that are this easy to do and are free to anyone that can improve the quality of your life. So adding steps per day, what I would say, if you are doing nothing right now, you are doing no steps, start with something. 3,500, 4,000 steps per day, get yourself a wrist tracker so you can hold yourself accountable is a great place to start. Now, I've seen a variety of research on this saying that 7,500 steps, there's no difference between doing 7,500 and 10,000. But I will tell you, as someone that's been coaching for a long time, I have seen a difference as opposed to 7,500 and 10,000, 10,000 being more optimal. So starting off with wherever you're at, which is if you're going from 0 to something, that will have an effect. And then over time, you can increase those steps. Just like training, you don't need to start with the maximum amount. You can start with the lowest effective dose and increase over time. So what I want for you guys is to just do some steps, 3,000, 4,000 steps, 7 days per week. Okay, do it first thing in the morning, do it at lunch, whenever you can get it in. Sometimes I find myself walking in the hallway of my house at night because I haven't hit my 10,000 steps. So you can be like that. You could be anal like I am with it, or you could just try to do it whenever you can and do the best you can based on you. And starting off with some steps is gonna be better than none, and over time increasing. That is it for today. Those are 3 key steps to really light the fire on your fitness journey. Now, there is so much misinformation online, and I think that the major piece of major problem with all this information online is people don't know how to make sense of it. What's accurate, what isn't? All of these things I've mentioned here today will change your life. If you are not doing any strength training and you don't know the foundational movement patterns and you learn them, you will get stronger. If you are not doing any cardio, any stuff for your heart, you will get better if you add that stuff. If you're not doing any steps per day, it will change your life just by including steps on a daily basis. All of these things are major, major needle movers. So don't sleep on any of them. And a lot of this stuff is very simple. And I think that because it's very simple, people think that it's not impactful. If you do these things, you will get better. I promise you that. Until next time, guys, results are king.